When you think about a cyber attack, you probably picture a lightning fast smash and grab. But what if the thieves spent 9 full days inside the vault before anyone even knew they were there? Well, that's exactly what we're breaking down today. The step-by-step anatomy of a patient, calculated, and absolutely devastating digital heist. So, what does that actually look like? We're going to move way past the simple idea of just a virus. Instead, we're going to follow the exact playbook these criminals used to take over an entire network, steal its most valuable secrets, and then hold the whole thing hostage. This is the inside story. And here's the number that really tells the story: 178 hours. That's how long the attackers were inside the network. From the very first moment they slipped in to the second they deployed the ransomware. That's over a week. This was no quick strike. This was a meticulous, patient, and terrifyingly calm operation. So, how does a 9-day heist like this even begin? Well, not with a bang, but with the quiet turn of a key. See, the attackers didn't have to break down the door. As it turns out, it was already unlocked and waiting for them. The way they got in was using something called RDP, or Remote Desktop Protocol. The simplest way to think about it is like a digital key. It's a standard feature in Windows that lets an IT person control a computer from anywhere in the world. Super useful, right? But if an attacker gets their hands on the username and password, that useful tool becomes the perfect key to walk right through a company's front door. So the big question is, where'd they even get this key? The investigation showed they didn't try to guess the password. They just logged in. So it probably came from one of three places. Maybe some malware had already stolen the password from a computer, or maybe an employee reused a password from an old data breach. But what's most likely? They bought it. There's a whole criminal industry of so-called initial access brokers who just sell keys to corporate networks on the dark web. The security was broken long before this specific attack ever started. All right, so they're in. Now what? Did they rush in and start smashing things? Nope. For the next several days, they moved like ghosts. They were quietly exploring the network, basically drawing a map of the entire digital house to figure out where all the valuables were hidden before they made their final move. First, they just used the simple built-in Windows tools that any IT person would use every day, just to get their bearings. Then, they brought in their own tool, Soft Perfect Network Scanner, to create a super detailed map of every single device. And get this, within just 10 minutes of first logging in, they used a second stolen password to take over the domain controller. That's basically the network's brain, the master control panel. And just like that, they had the keys to the entire kingdom. And to make sure they could always get back in, they created their own secret accounts, including one that was cleverly misspelled as administrator to fly under the radar. And this quote from the incident report really nails it. The fact that the attackers didn't just have one key, but a whole keychain full of working keys, including one for the network's brain, it strongly suggests they just bought a full access package deal from another criminal. They showed up ready to go. So, after days of silent preparation, the attackers were finally ready to make their real move. And this is where modern ransomware gets truly devastating, because it's not just about locking your files anymore. Oh no, it's a two-pronged attack. It's about stealing them first. Just look at how this played out in the final hours. On day 6, they start gathering up all the sensitive files, bundling them together, and quietly uploading them to a file-sharing site. The data is now stolen. Then they wait. On day 9, they make the final, crippling move. They go straight for the backup servers and just delete everything. The safety net is gone, and only after the backups were destroyed did they finally unleash the Lynx ransomware to lock up every file they could find. It is a vicious, vicious strategy. And here's why it's so brutally effective. The attackers now have 2 ways to squeeze a company for money. The encryption part is the classic ransom. Pay us and maybe you'll get your files back. But the data theft creates a second threat, extortion. Pay us or we leak all your sensitive data, your customer lists, your financial records, everything to the entire world. So even if you have backups, you still have this massive data leak hanging over your head. Now, it is so important to understand that the group behind this attack isn't working in a vacuum. They're just one player in a massive, crowded, and constantly evolving criminal ecosystem. This one attack, it's just a single play in a much, much bigger game. And I mean, just look at this. This is just a tiny sample of the major players out there. Groups like Akira, Keelan, Play, Lockbit. These aren't lone hackers in a basement. These are sophisticated organizations that operate like businesses, and it is a highly competitive and highly industrialized criminal field. And in any competitive field, you have to keep innovating. These criminal groups are now evolving way beyond just finding a stolen key. The next wave of attacks uses a far more insidious technique, finding a way to disable the entire alarm system from the inside. It's a technique called Bring Your Own Vulnerable Driver. It's so clever, it's scary. Here's how it works. Attackers find a legitimate, signed software driver, something the computer already trusts, but one that has a known security flaw. They bring that trusted but flawed tool with them into the network, and then they exploit its weakness to gain the highest level of system privileges. This lets them basically reach in and shut down the antivirus and other security tools before they even notice what's happening. And this isn't just a theory, by the way. It is happening right now. A brand new ransomware called Osiris is using this exact technique. It uses a driver they've named Portree, and its only job is to kill all the security processes before the main attack begins. It's like an intruder who doesn't just pick the lock, he gets inside, walks over to the alarm panel, and just cuts the wires before he starts robbing the place. So, after all that, how do you actually defend against this stuff? Well, there are a few absolutely crucial steps. First, that digital front door, RDP, has to be locked down and monitored. Second, you have to use multi-factor authentication everywhere. That makes a stolen password almost useless. Third, only allow approved software to run on your systems. And critically, you have to maintain backups that are not only off-site, but immutable, which means they physically cannot be deleted by an attack. The game has clearly changed. Attackers aren't just looking for an unlocked door anymore. They're bringing their own tools to dismantle the entire security system from within. And it leaves us with a pretty critical question to think about. As attackers evolve from simply picking locks to disabling the whole alarm, is your digital front door truly secure? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.